Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome.
There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
As long as the Matrix exists, the human race will never be free.
Start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here? What better time than now?
Terrorists! Terrorize this.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
That's right. Greetings, free thinkers, truthers, awakening sheeple, and anti-globalists. It is Thursday, September 15th, 2011, and you have found yourselves staring to the heavens on the front lines in this war on our humanity. I'm your host, Darren Stone, broadcasting to you live from FEMA Region 1. It's the top of the food chain when it comes to FEMA regions, people. It's because it's FEMA Region 1. Tonight's call-in number is 917-889-3064. All right, we're going to get right to it. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty damn excited. All right? If you guys read the show description, my guest, astronomer Francis Walsh. He's also an artist and a writer. Francis kind of discovered for himself the truth about Nibiru, Planet X, and Comet Elenin. The reason was simple, he says, finding out the truth. And how did he do that? He used tools that are available to all of us. Much like all the information we cover on this program, everybody, it's not top secret info. All you have to do is look. You have to have the desire, and you have to want to look, and you have to want to know. Francis says that astronomy has elevated his viewpoint. It's an opinion-based, more on fact than fiction, which is something we really need at this point in time. There's nothing rarer than the truth in these trying times of our lives, and when everyone else seems to fail, Francis tries to be successful in the face of adversity. An observer must observe. A rational person will always be rational. See, I agree. And they'll have common sense as well. We're lacking these things these days. His take on space comes from his images. His images are of space that include Comet Elenin, Comet Honda, Comet Levy, and the upcoming imaging of U-55, which is supposed to pass very, very close to Earth November 8th and 9th of November. So without any further delays, let me introduce Mr. Francis Walsh to the show. How you doing, Francis?
I'm doing fine. How you doing? This is Francis. Francis Walsh, the astronomer, The Perfect Minds on YouTube, and Fuzzy Was Here on Facebook. I am happy to be here speaking about my favorite topic, which is why is everybody so freaking crazy about what's going on out in space? Right? You laugh. You haven't heard half the crazy. I'm going to sound crazy, but I'm actually the most rational person talking about this subject there is right now. Even the astronomers, I think, are wrong right now. Can you believe that?
I can believe that because I think it's very hard for us to get any source of credible information almost anywhere. So
hey, I have a question for you.
What's that?
Let's say you had to make a big decision about something that was going to happen to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Would you go out in public and make an assumption that you weren't 100% sure about?
Well, no, I wouldn't. And we've had this conversation on this show before. In lieu of an event that would affect everybody, I often tell people, what would they say?
Why would you say it is actually more important than what would you say? And I bring this up because I'm going to tell you right now. The topic of Comet Elenin is so vague. It shouldn't be. It's been around now for almost 10 months. We've got astronomers, professional and amateur astronomers looking at it. And the reason why I bring that up is because I'm going to tell you right now, the three most prominent astronomers who have taken images and interpreted what they see, which is the guy who found the comet, Leonid Elenin, another astronomer named Ian Musgrave, and then another astronomer called Michael Mazziola. I don't know if I said that right, but it's close. And Michael has been taking images of Comet Elenin continuously over the past few months, kind of like I have, but different. He's gotten more images recently than I have because he lives in Australia, and he's in a part of Australia that has more clear weather than the location where my telescopes I use are, and he's using his own equipment out in his backyard. Okay.
Francis, where are your telescopes?
I'll tell you. I am physically speaking from outside of Houston, Texas. So that's the Central Time Zone. I use the global. Besides having our own telescopes at home with my father-in-law, I use a network of telescopes, robotic telescopes, called the Global Rent-A-Scope Network. That is global-rent-a-scope.com. This is a network of 14 different telescopes on 3 different continents. There's an observatory in Victoria, Australia, the southeasternmost point in Australia, the southernmost point in Australia. There is 4 telescopes in Nerpio, Spain, and there are 4 telescopes in Mayhill, New Mexico.
Okay,
so I have access to all of those. And I have access to those because everyone has access to those, and all it takes is some greenbacks, euros, francs, whatever you want, to be able to use them. And they are professionally set up. They are scientific-grade telescopes. So if I take a picture with one of those telescopes, I can hand it off to a Nobel Prize winner, and he'll know what to do with it if he knows what to do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, I know what you mean.
So,
Nobel Prize winner. Well, hopefully he won't bomb it into oblivion.
I went right to the top. You know what I mean?
I got
you.
So
just to make it, just so like, I'm not just, even I believe the images, and I brought up Michael Mazziola. The reason why those images are so important because Michael believes the comet is breaking up.
Mm-hmm.
The latest series of images he's taken over a number of days, the last one on September 14th. On September 14th, you can't even see the comet in his image, okay?
Okay.
He made the interpretation starting August 26, 27. So he took some pictures August 26, 27, and he put them on his website, and he told everybody, hey, I think it's breaking up. It appears to be getting dimmer. The nucleus I can't see as well. Now, I don't know the equipment that he's using, and I don't know if he can hand his pictures to a Nobel Prize winner and get them accepted like they were mine.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm bringing this up. So on August 27th, he says, hey, I think Comet Elenin is breaking up. I wasn't able to take pictures. I took pictures on August 26th, so like the day before he came out. And the comet to me, in my images, looked the same. No breakup.
Okay.
And then the next day he comes out and says, hey, the comet's breaking up. And now over the next few days, I'm not able to take images because the weather in Australia is bad. I wasn't able to take pictures again until September 2nd. So Michael started with, hey, I think it's breaking up. And then another astronomer looked at Ian Musgrave looked at Michael's pictures and said, hey, I think the comet's breaking up. And then Leonid Elenin looked at Michael's pictures and said, hey, I think the comet's breaking up. What's wrong with that picture?
Well, I'm not quite sure what's wrong with the picture, but I can tell you what I've read about that supposed theory.
Okay, well, let me cut before you come in. what you have is three different people looking at one set of images, making up three different interpretations, okay? Two people didn't take pictures for themselves, and they're using someone else's pictures.
Right.
If Michael Mazziola's pictures aren't representative of what's really out there, then them other two fools just fell off the boat,
right,
including the guy who found it. Now, the reason why I say this, because they were saying this August 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, September 1st, September 2nd. I wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning in Texas. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
When it's 3 a.m. in Texas, it's sunset in Australia. Okay, and that's where you have to be if you want to shoot Comet Elenin. Wherever you got to be right now, it's got to be in the southern hemisphere. And on September 2nd, it has to be at sunset because Comet Elenin sets with the sun. It's only like 1 or 2 degrees higher up in the sky and the sun than the sun is,
okay,
due west. And then you've got 20 minutes before Comet Elenin sets, and then no telescope's going to see it no matter where you are because it's under the horizon. And and see, Nerpio, Spain, is the highest in the northern hemisphere. It stopped seeing Comet Elenin back in April. Okay,
that's the highest observatory.
That's
in the
right.
Northern hemisphere. Okay.
Right. Nerpio, Spain. And then the next one is Mayhill, New Mexico, in the northern hemisphere. It lost sight, and that's where I took from June to July 23rd. I was taking all my pictures of Comet Elenin from Nerpio, Spain. Not Nerpio, Spain, from Mayhill, New Mexico. And that is the same place where Leonid Elenin found the comet in the first place. I found out Leonid Elenin only has access to telescopes in Mayhill, New Mexico. This is why he's looking at Michael's pictures and trying to make a determination. Okay.
Ah, okay.
Okay. So now we're to September 2nd.
But Francis, let me ask you a question. Why would he only have access to those telescopes?
He might have access either through a learning institution. I do not know this for sure.
Okay.
But obviously he doesn't have a telescope at home.
Okay. And did he supposedly? Is this where he supposedly discovered it? Was from the New Mexico? Okay.
With the IOS. Yeah, there's the. I think it's the IOS observatory. Now it's not. Now my observatory, my pay for observatory is also in Mayhill, New Mexico. But I think he didn't use the same network as I did, because I think the one that he did is like more of a university associated or whatever. I don't know what his connections were. We just started off with Leonid Elenin got his name on it. I know that he used a telescope in Mayhill, New Mexico, but I also know that June 23rd was the last day you could see Comet Elenin from Mayhill, New Mexico. So Leonid Elenin doesn't have new images. He's relying on other people.
Okay.
Now Ian Musgrave, he's in Australia too. Ian Musgrave is an astronomer that is associated with the network that I use. And in fact, he writes a blog for the Global Reniscope Network. And it was his interpretation also that it was dimming out. But see, the problem is none of these guys realized that there was actually someone else out there taking pictures, because my pictures on September 2nd showed it was intact.
Yes.
It didn't show it broke up.
Right.
Because I took images with Gras telescope, Gras 009, and I used 4 different filters to take pictures of it. All the way up until that day, I was really amateur.
You posted those pictures, didn't you?
Yeah, I made the video of them.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right.
Yep.
And see, on September 2nd, I took a step up the ladder, the astronomy ladder, and I finally decided, let's start shooting it with some different filters. Because what was happening was the comet was so low on the horizon, the atmosphere gets in the way. Rather than looking straight up from the point that you are on Earth to the highest point in the night sky, you have little to no atmosphere to look through except right above you. As that object gets closer to the horizon, what are you doing? You're looking through miles and miles and miles and miles of atmosphere. So this is why I feel Mr. Mazziola's pictures are worthless for the interpretation, because of the physical location of the comet on the horizon. And now the reason why I think it's so funny, and I keep talking about it, is because these astronomers are getting it wrong now. Not only are the theorists getting it wrong, I feel the potential for what the astronomers are saying about the breakup, because now everybody thinks it's broke up.
Now hasn't NASA also claimed that it's breaking up as well?
Okay, Michael is a NASA scientist.
Okay.
On his website somewhere, there is NASA, written on it.
All right.
But it's like it's like your resume. It's not a NASA site. NASA hasn't said anything. And here's something key for your viewers, for anybody who's been listening or interested and knows what's going on. NASA has the SOHO satellites and the LASCO satellites that orbit ahead and behind Earth and with Earth, and they're all pointed at the sun. Comet Elenin comes in between the Earth and the sun. I believe that Comet Elenin is going to show up in the last. Over the last few days, for like the last 2 weeks, Comet Elenin was in the satellite image, and then it went out to a far reach of its orbit, and it's coming back around the sun, back toward the sun. So it was in the image, and then right toward the end, when we had this supposed Jupiter explosion, see, there was an image imperfection. There's a lot of image imperfections in the satellite imagery. Okay, and a lot of times when a planet exits the image, it throws off a flare. Well, all the theorists said, "Oh, look, Jupiter just blew up."
Now, Francis, would this flare, would it look like an explosion, or would it look more like a lens flare, or a round object in the field of view?
It looks like it looks very deceiving. Okay, you have to put yourself into I'm going to believe anything, because if you're in the I'm going to believe anything, it will deceive you. If you're in the rational, I'm going to be sensible about it, you're going to spend 15 minutes finding out what it is. Because here's the thing. The NASA satellite has a whole page dedicated to instruct people what they can see and what's an image artifact. And when a planet exits the scene, what happens is it looks like a big arc bow of light comes out the side of the planet, and it reaches way into the image. And sometimes before you get this big bow of light, you'll get like a flash of light. So you have like a flash of light, and then this big arcing bow, and it'll still be attached to where the planet is, and it'll just grow and grow and grow, and then it'll grow out and it'll fade away, and then at the last exit of the planet, it'll turn out to be like another flash. So you have a flash, this arcing bow of light, and then another flash. So if you want to believe anything, you'll think it's something weird. If you want to be rational and you've gone and spent 15 minutes and reading about image artifacts, you realize it wasn't. But that didn't stop the theories coming out on YouTube right away, because as soon as something happens, you get a big influx of information about what's going on. But the real thing is you can't tell what's going on for 3 or 5 days with those satellites. Anytime you try to see something and report it, you're going to be wrong. And they were wrong. They said there was an explosion on Jupiter, and see what happened was this big bow of arcing light. It crossed over Elenin, right? And it looked like Elenin took a turn, and all the things were going on in the picture that appeared that something happened, but nothing happened. Elenin was supposed to make the move. This thing was an image imperfection. So when this all occurred, Elenin was getting a little farther out in the image. Now it's going to be coming back. It's going to show back up in the satellites, and when it does, all this talk about Michael's images are going to be baloney. Now, more important news. I sent Leonid Elenin my September 2nd images on September 4th, and they haven't said anything about them.
Wow.
They said he went on his website because all my friends and everybody knows that he's got them, right? Because I reported right away. And they're asking him, and his first thing is said, "Yeah, I received images from Francis Walsh. We have showed it to other people. I will give a report ASAP." And that's in this broken Russian, whatever. I don't think he's unintelligent, but when you hear a Russian trying to write in English, it sounds very third gradish. So, And he said, "I'll come back ASAP." And that's been I thought it would take 5 days, but now it's been, what is it now, the 15th?
Yeah.
It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I know what my pictures show, and I think October 23rd. I mean, because what will happen now is the comet will go make its passage in between the Earth and the Sun, and sometime toward the end of October, the comet will rise before the Sun does, and that's when we'll see it again.
Okay, so I was going to ask you. One of my questions was, I've read a lot of timelines online that as far as its approach, its departure, and the planetary, the alignment with the sun and the moon and the Earth during these different times. So as far as you know, or can estimate or guess. You're saying the first time we should be able to see it, we'll be able to see it with the naked eye?
It depends on what kind of, it depends. Comets can grow large tails. They can have no tail. Something that would take, a comet could come into the inner solar system with a big, big tail. That's not Comet Elenin, but I'm just going to use it as an example. A comet comes in with a big tail, and then the sun has a solar flare. The solar flare and the CMEs can take that whole coma right off a comet and just wipe it out. And
Okay.
this is something that kind of happened with Comet Elenin too, because it did interact with the CME, and this was all at the time that it started dimming out and all this breakup talk and the explosion from Jupiter. It was just a conflux of events. So
well, let me ask you: could the brightness of the CME, the brightness of the sun, dim the comet and make it harder to see and make people think that it's breaking up? Could that be part of it also?
No, I do not believe the brightness of the sun is increasing.
Okay. Well, no, I didn't mean it was increasing. I just meant because if the comet was closer to it. See, I don't look through telescopes, so I really have no idea, and that's why you're on the show.
Right. Well, no, I don't feel that the sun is getting brighter. You'll have moments where it'll expel, plasma flares. So in that spot, it might get bright. But if we were out in space, if you got rid of the atmosphere, the light of the sun would not be as controlling. It's not as controlling. Once we get inside the atmosphere, it controls a lot of what we see. It appears to light up the whole sky, or i.e. the whole universe. But if you got rid of the atmosphere, you'd be able to see the sun and the comet as long as it wasn't right in front of the sun. But now, I guess your question is, we are in the atmosphere. Are we going to be able to see it? Is the brightness of the sun going to affect it? The brightness of the sun is going to affect it as long as it is in between us and the sun. There's no way we can see the comet because the comet's in view when the sun is up.
Okay.
As it moves on to the other side of the sun, the comet rises in the morning before the sun. Like right now, the sun sets right before the comet, okay? So the comet's up when it's still daylight, and then it sets and the sun sets kind of together. On the reverse, when it gets to the other side of the sun, it'll rise in the morning before the sun. So you'll see the sky starts to lighten up because the sun's rising, and then you'll be out there with your telescope. If you want to get out there right away to see Elenin first, you'll be dealing with the sun rising and Elenin rising. But then if you wait too long, the sun will be too high, and then you won't be able to see it. You know what I mean?
Okay. So you're saying that this should occur between the 26th and 27th?
We're talking about October. The timeline.
October, not September.
Right. No, the Comet Elenin came to perihelion. Perihelion is its closest pass to the sun, which means it is generated as much speed as it's going to at perihelion, and then any time after perihelion, it is decreasing in speed. Perihelion is the closest it came to the sun between September 10th and September 11th. It was on September 11th, but it was really kind of a weird time. And depending on where you live in the world, it could have been September 10th, it could have been September 11th, it almost could have been September 12th. Okay. So that was the close approach to the sun. We've passed that. We're 4 days past. All so right. Now, Comet Elenin is literally slowing down, not very much, by millimillas, but it's slowing down. It's closer in between the sun and the earth, because now you can picture perihelion. If we're standing on the earth and looking at the sun, Comet Elenin's perihelion happened to our left. If we reached out our hand to the left, that's where it happened. After that, now it's coming in from the left toward our right, from the left to the right, okay. And it's going to pass in between the earth and the sun, but not directly in between the earth and the sun. An alignment, a solar planetary star alignment needs a couple of things. It needs more than one object, and it needs something else. The earth has an equator, okay? The sun has an equator. The earth and the sun are in alignment because their equators are equal. To get a Comet Elenin alignment with the earth and the sun, you'd have to have Comet Elenin's equator on the same plane. It's never been there. Okay. Even when Comet Elenin is directly in between the Earth and the Sun, it is 2 degrees above the ecliptic plane, which means its equator is 2 degrees above us, which technically puts it way above the top of the Earth. I mean, 2 degrees is a lot.
Okay.
2 degrees.
So in your opinion, these timelines and alignments that I've read about online, this is bull.
They are non-events, but the timelines are actual. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right.
The timelines have a date, they have a time, and they have a position of the comet. All of the alignments that they wanted to tie to earthquakes, there was never an equator-to-equator alignment.
All right.
And so, if you want to think past that, what do you have then? You have a pyramid. You have the Earth and the Sun, because most of the alignments occurred Earth, Sun, Comet Elenin, okay, or something else. And what you have then is you have an Earth-Sun alignment, and you have, it was below. So the pyramid point would be pointing down. Comet Elenin was below the equators of the Earth and the Sun. So what you would have is an upside-down pyramid. So if there was any actual transference of energy or gravity or electricity, do you know what would happen? It would come out the top of Comet Elenin. It wouldn't make it to us, and it wouldn't go back to the Sun. It wouldn't make the corner. You'd have 2 forces meeting at a peak, and whatever was generated would come right out the top. Not that I believe that happened, but if you wanted to think about what would occur in a triangular alignment, you'd have the weak point being the top of the top or the bottom of the triangle, and the Earth and the Sun being the foundation of any alignment.
All right. That makes a lot more sense. So we can pretty much scrub out the fact that the Japanese earthquake was caused by an alignment with including Elenin.
No, I have more funky information about those things. I mean,
I just want to address this before we move on. You mentioned Elenin's tail. Now, I've also read that this thing it's supposedly 200,000 kilometers wide. I don't know if that's a big tail, a small tail. I don't know what that means. Is that accurate?
It was never accurate.
Okay.
And this is why I have a supporting. There was a time when they made that description, or like they made that description a week before Comet Elenin showed up for the first time on the SOHO satellites. Do you know what when I say SOHO satellites, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I actually have them on my website, frontradio.net, live feeds to them.
Okay, so when Elenin first showed up on the satellites, there was something else in the image, and it's called Saturn. Okay, Saturn is 76,000 miles in diameter. Comet Elenin wasn't the size of Saturn in that image. And it was inside of Saturn's orbit. So if it was the size of if it was 200,000 kilometers, the coma and the tail, it would have shown itself to be a lot like. And this is why I don't get where these people come up with their stuff.
Now, like in going on that, now why wouldn't NASA at some point maybe step in and just give us the real deal?
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Do you let's say, and this is how I come, and this is why I say this. I put myself physically in everybody's shoes. If I'm to explain what I think about NASA, then I've physically taken myself and put myself in a NASA scientist's shoes, and I've thought like himself, just like they'll do with profiling people, whatever, get this person, and I've thought to myself, here I am, I'm the NASA scientist. I go online and I see what's being said about Comet Elenin. Do I really want to jump off into that discussion?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see why we even have to have a discussion if NASA would just put out a release and go, blah. I don't know what they discuss with anybody really. So
okay, let me go a little bit further. Well, that's what I said. I do not want to jump into the brown dwarf star theory, and even Elenin, every time he puts a post on his Space Obs website, he's got a deal, and I've talked to him. He's sick of dealing with the brown dwarf. Crazy world's going to end because none of the scientists believe it, and it's not that they're lying to us; they just don't believe it because the truth's not there. But okay, so
but Francis, at the same time, we've heard NASA saying, and I actually saw this on mainstream media. I think it was last winter at some point. All the discovery of all of these brown dwarfs that they're suddenly finding everywhere. Like so many, you trip on them. There's so many brown dwarfs around.
And right, and we had that NASA announcement today of the binary star planet that they found also. Man, that sure sounds a lot like Nibiru or whatever too, right?
Right, it was a different system though.
that was with the Kepler satellite, right?
Right.
Yeah, different system. And you're talking about, yes, they found, I've seen the research that they did. What they did, or what I've assumed that they're looking at, is there was some research done, and it's the distance of 48 AU. Okay, so 48 distances to the sun, and they made a diameter of that distance all the way around our sun, and then they did through statistics how many of the exoplanets could possibly be in that space. Okay, now that's farther than the Oort cloud, and they came up with 8. So I think what they're doing with their satellites that they have now, and this research is, they are introducing to us these new findings. Why it's occurring at this time? Again, it's like people knew that this information was coming out, and now we've got 2012, and we've got Comet Elenin. Comet Elenin could be a bunch of different things. Blue Kachina, red Kachina,
yep.
Nibiru, brown dwarf star. We've got NASA, but
we've even heard from some Russians claiming that it's being intelligently driven.
Yeah, Richard Hoagland, it's the tetrahedron. But listen, let me step back though to the NASA thing. I believe NASA knew, because they know where the orbit was going. They know the comet was coming in front of the satellites. NASA knows that they're going to show us the comet. I believe, as a NASA scientist, I don't want to jump off into the brown. I don't want to start debating whether it's a brown dwarf star or not. Mm-hmm. Why would they introduce all this new information but miss the one that's in the solar system? You know what I mean?
That's my question. This is why there's so many questions. So it's such a sketchy subject.
It's all coming together. We've got, and here it is. You know what my theory, when I want to get right down to the gut of it, is it information designed to keep us occupied and our mind off our bank accounts and our lost jobs?
Now you see, I think just the opposite.
Nothing is going to happen.
I think all the economic ridiculousness that's going on, like they can fix this issue. All of this the wars, just all of this stuff going on down here, terrorism. Just all of this ridiculous stuff is a distraction from that. But you say that's a distraction from that stuff. So
Right. My opinion is this: if nothing happens, then it was nothing by design, because there's too much stuff. NASA coming in with their exoplanets and all this new research and all the Mayan timetable and the
Hopis and the I Ching
and that whole. But now listen to me.
Yeah.
I am under the full belief and understanding that no exoplanet binary star is in this solar system now. So these dates that we're talking about, September 27th, October, blah, blah, whatever, these are not dates that are going to be affected by this exoplanet. Now, whether this exoplanet shows up next year, and I'm going to have a little bit more talk, because, okay, they're introducing all this talk. We happen to be looking right now at right now's time, trying to determine if what they're talking about is here right now. I believe what they're talking about is not here right now, and what we have left are the comets and the asteroids. The comets and the asteroids on their own pose a certain amount of danger. Okay, if they were to follow their exact paths as described by NASA, then no, they're not a threat. But if Comet Elenin broke up, where's the cloud? Is the threat increased?
Right. That was my question. When I first heard that it's breaking up, I was like, okay, is this a good thing or is this a worse thing? Is this something,
Right. And what I've heard is, one of the astronomers said, well, even if it breaks up, the big land-based telescopes will be able to find the cloud, and we'll be able to determine in the time that we're supposed to whether it's together or not. Okay, so if it breaks up, we'll still be able to see it, because all the particles will be still following along in the general orbital path. Okay. So we don't have to worry about it. I do not believe we have to worry about Comet Elenin disappearing. Comet Elenin did not go into the sun. That's probably important. People might think, well, is it going to go into the sun? It's not going into the sun. It's going to continue on a hyperbolic orbit, whatever particles and dust, on its way out, just like it would have if it was together, maybe just a little bit slower and maybe just a little bit adjusted on the orbit. What the adjustment means to Earth, that's debatable, and we don't know that yet.
Now, I've heard that there's missing data from NASA on Elenin. I've heard that like you're saying, the orbit, what's the right wording I'm looking for? The orbit is subject to change. They're not either. Now, I believe they fully know, but I'm saying the information that's been put out there, to my knowledge, has been like the orbit or the trajectory of the comet is debatable. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if there's a breakup.
Okay.
I mean, a breakup will not act the same as an intact comet. So that's physics and sense and sensibility, rational thinking. A dust cloud is not going to travel the same as a heavier object. It's going to lose mass. It's going to lose weight. It's going to be affected somehow if it breaks up.
Right.
What I want to say, NASA, and I'm going to say this. When you go to NASA's website and you go look up a near-Earth object, there's a lot of information there. And sometimes not everyone uses all the information or doesn't actually look through all the information. Most people go to the orbital diagram and they chart where is it, how close it's going to be, yes or no.
Okay.
Do you agree with me or not? It was a kind of a question.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So the majority of people who are using JPL are going and looking at the orbital diagrams to get their information. Yes. There is also close approach data, ephemerides. There's more information than just the orbital path. The ephemerides have never changed.
What are those, Francis?
The ephemerides list the exact distances of the close approach of the object.
Oh, okay.
So in the instance of, let's move off Comet Elenin and go to YU-55 for a second.
All right.
YU-55 is the asteroid due to make a close pass in November. If you go into JPL and you look up 2005 YU-55 and you want to see where it is, you'll go in there and then for most people they'll click on the orbital path and then they'll hit the little forward button and that'll take them through time forward and backward. And they can go forward and they can say, oh, it says to me that YU-55 will be closest to Earth on November 9th at a distance of XYZ, because I don't know the exact one, okay?
I think it was like, I won't say. I think
0.001, 0.0021 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. This is important. If you go back now, get out of the orbit diagram, and you go back to the first page, and you click on the word ephemerides, and then you look for the close approach data, and you click on that, it lists out the close approach that YU-55 has had with any planet in the past or upcoming. The actual information for YU-55 is that on November 8th, YU-55 makes a close approach to Earth at 221,000 miles, which is 0.0021 kilometers or whatever. And then it shows on the next day, November 9th, it has a close approach to the moon. So see, you're not getting the full information from that orbit diagram.
Okay.
But it's there. So when somebody says, no, the close approach is on November 9th, they don't know it. They think they're right, but they're wrong.
All right.
Because JPL is telling them in the orbit diagram, they've given you an average. They said on November 9th, it's so close to the Earth. Well, when you go to the real data, the broken down data, it says on November 8th, it's 221. Now, the average distance of the moon is 238,000 miles.
200, how much?
238,000 miles is the average orbit of the moon.
Okay.
So, YU-55 comes in closest to Earth on November 8th at 221. So it's closer than the moon.
Right. It's going to come between us and the moon?
I don't believe it's in between us and the moon.
Okay.
But it's relative to the viewer, because if I say it's closer to Earth than the moon,
I got you.
Then they'll say it's in between the Earth and the moon. And then the next day, it has the close approach to the moon at 217,000 miles.
Okay.
Now, the approach of YU-55 7 days before it gets to us, it's equator to equator.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not in between anything. It's not. It's just our alignment is with YU-55.
All right.
And it has 7 days to travel from our equator to above the Earth. The passage of YU-55 is above Earth. The close approaches are when it's above Earth. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But it has 7 days to get there. And so it's not going in between the Earth and the Moon. This is what's going to happen. The YU-55 is going to make a close approach above Earth on the 8th. And the Moon is going to be farther away because it's coming around Earth. And so it's moving faster than both objects, and it gets close enough with YU-55 above the Earth and the Moon to come to within 217,000 miles. Because the Moon orbits around above the Earth's equator. Did you know that?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
The Moon doesn't orbit on the equator. It's slightly above the equator.
Oh, I did not know that.
So it can physically get closer to YU-55 than the Earth because it's higher on the equator than the Earth. It's really kind of complex. If you're a person who can believe anything, you're in a bad spot when you're trying to report what you just found out. And this is what you get from a lot of people. A lot of people are reporting, because a lot of people are researching. I can't hold it against them, but they're reporting right away what their interpretation is. And for someone like me, and then they'll argue with me. Oh, no, you're not right. Oh, that pisses me off, man. No, you're not right. No, you're not right. It's just not, it makes the whole fun of doing good research unfun.
So in your opinion, Francis, what are we looking at with Elenin? Are we looking at any type of celestial event? Are we looking at a show in the sky? Are we looking at, if you'd never heard of Elenin, will the timeline come and go, and you never would have known the difference?
Yes, and I've said that to myself. If you didn't know, it's going to come and go.
Okay.
If you didn't know, it's going to come and go. If it breaks up, there's going to be more work to do for people like me and people like who think. If it breaks up, people are going to be more worried than if it doesn't break up. Okay. And now let's move quickly on to the next object. Comet Elenin. Its closest approach, and we're going to just call it still together. I know everybody's calling it apart. I think it's still together. Comet Elenin, still together, its closest approach. Do you know what it is?
No, I don't.
It is 21 million miles, 0.234 AU.
Okay. So
21 million miles.
Probably going to be hard to see.
Okay, but now I'm going to throw you a fast one though. Comet Levy.
Yes.
Comet Levy arrives January 7th, 2012. It comes in at 0.023 AU. That's 100 times closer. That's 2 million miles.
Okay. Now,
why aren't we talking about that?
Maybe because we're being distracted with Elenin.
Yeah. Well, I think
maybe to condition us about these celestial objects so that people start paying less attention.
They ain't conditioning me.
Well, I'm, you know who I'm talking about. The
I do, but I want your listeners to know they need. If you're either going to play the game with these people who are going to report bullshit, because I don't have FCC.
No, you can say bullshit all you want, my friend.
Okay, because y'all are getting fed bullshit and you're eating it like it's filet mignon, and then you're coming out and you're regurgitating what you heard, and it's still bullshit.
Well, let me tell you how I approach all this stuff. I know that I'm smart enough to know that I don't know anything when it comes to this. So all I can do is talk to people like yourself or look at the reaction from the supposed powers that be. And that's really all I can really do. I don't take anything, with a complete grain of I totally believe it. I don't totally believe anything, but I take everything into consideration.
I mean, when's the last time you've seen the powers that be react to anything?
Well,
I don't even see them reacting to anything.
Well, I don't mean, I'm not saying.
I can't trust them to tell me when to
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. I've been looking into this subject matter for about a decade, so I look at reactions and draw conclusions from them that most people probably wouldn't. So really, that's all I can take. I never really believed or thought for 1 minute that Elenin was going to be a destructive force itself. What I did think was maybe it was a precursor or being used for something.
Right. So and that's a good approach at least.
So
excuse me. I'm sorry, because you're not falling into the rabbit hole and getting stuck in one place, waiting for the end to come. You're at least forward thinking because okay, I can think like that. If it's a precursor, because listen, do you know what Revelations 12 says?
I do not know.
Okay, I am not a religious guy. I do not. I'm an astronomy guy, and I let people help me to know where to look. In the Bible, in the book of Revelations, chapter 12, it speaks of a woman clothed in the sun with the moon at her feet, giving birth to a male child. When she gives birth to a male child, a seven-headed dragon shows up and sends the male child to his god. Sounds kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
Well, you ever heard of the constellation Virgo?
Yes.
Okay. The constellation Virgo on September 29th will have the moon at her feet, the sun at her shoulders, a belly full of planets, and Comet Elenin at her head. And on October 1st, she gives birth to Venus. Giving birth to Venus means the planet moves through the plane created by two stars that represent her hips.
Okay.
It's really going to happen. I don't know what it means.
Okay.
But in the sky, from September 29th to November 11th, Virgo is going to give birth to Venus, Mercury, the Sun, and then on November 11th is Saturn. If you know anything about Saturn, Saturn's a whole nother bowl of beans.
I don't know anything about any of this stuff. That's why you're here, my friend. So continue on.
Here is another major event that nobody's talking about. And it's in the book of Revelations, if you wanted to interpret it that way. And I'm interpreting it that way because I'm an astronomer. And when they say the woman is clothed in the sun, has the moon at her feet, has a crown of 12 stars, and is giving birth, that is what's going to happen out in sky. And I'm not even going to turn my eye to it.
Well, what I do know about the book of Revelations is that it's pretty much signifying the end times.
Well, but they're talking about the end times.
Oh, I know that. I get all that.
So and then you'll hear people about, you got to go to God, you got to get right, and then even the religious guy who says he knows the sky and he knows the Bible isn't making the association that I'm making. And I tell you that to me the observation is so clear. Now what it means I don't know. I mean, if you want, and then I guess the story goes, the seven-headed red dragon shows up, and the woman gave birth to a male child, and the dragon shows up and sends the male child to his god. So, astronomically speaking, does that mean something shows up and takes Venus and sends it somewhere? That's where my imagination and thought goes, if something like that was going to happen. And then it says that the woman goes into the wilderness for 2,000 days. Well, I'll tell you that Virgo is setting, which means it's below the horizon. Does that mean the Earth's going to stop rotating and we're not going to see Virgo again for a long, long time? How come nobody's talking about this stuff? I'm not talking about it because I think it's going to happen, but there's some real astronomy things going on out there that could be piled onto the stack. And I'm not doing it just to pile onto the stack. It's what an astronomer would be looking at.
No, you're bringing forward some information that I've never heard before, and I'm pretty sure that most of my listeners have never heard before. So
September 29th, I'm going to tell everyone, on September 29th, what you would want to do is you want to go out at sunset, out of your house, look to the west, and find the moon. When you find the moon close to the horizon, don't look up, it's going to be close to the horizon, out due west, a little bit off to the left. When you see the moon on September 29th at sunset, you will know that alignment is occurring. The alignment does not occur the next night. The alignment doesn't occur the night before, and it won't occur again for another very, very, very long time. Ask me how long.
How long?
It's about when the Magi were following Regulus to the Jesus.
Okay, that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
All right.
So listen, I'm not a religious guy. I'm trying.
No. You're just using information that's out there. You see what it says.
To help my astronomy, so I know. So I'm looking in the right spot. These fools with the brown dwarf theory got me looking in blank spots, and there's nothing there. I mean, they've literally had me look at spots where there's nothing there. Okay, but they forget to tell me that, hey, on September 29th, you might want to go out and see the moon, and then you can know that you saw that, and then see what happens on October 4th and October on all these days that these planets are physically given birth. And what it is there's two stars in the constellation Virgo, and they're about same brightness, and they're a certain distance apart. And whether you make the stick drawing of the constellation or you make the whole art, those two stars are basically her hips. And when you do the stick drawing, there's a line that's connected in between those two stars. And the planets actually cross that line. And that physically looks like she's giving birth to stuff.
So, and this event, you're saying you don't really know what's going to happen, if anything?
Yeah, but the Bible says the seven-headed dragon's going to show up and eat the male child. And
what would you consider the seven-headed dragon to be?
It's going to just appear out of nowhere in my mind.
Is this going to be Francis? I have a question, and I don't. If this goes way off the topic, catch up with it later. Have you ever seen the Soho imaging with that thing that appears to be a huge phoenix?
Yeah.
What is that? Is that the seven-headed dragon? Is that a phoenix flying around out there? Is that an anomaly? Is that an effect? What is that?
Oh man, it's a fucking crazy effect. I've seen it. I've got the picture saved on my Facebook. It looks like a plane. It looks like a plane, pointy plane.
Yeah.
With the tail coming out.
Yeah.
And they took it like in 2010.
Yeah.
Listen, I can't explain it, but I'm going to tell you what. That happened a long time ago. But I've spent enough time. I spent time last year. I spent a lot of time with those satellites. I've saved these 32 images. I've saved 32 images that show me a rod come from behind the sun, come right up to the front of the sun, enter the sun, and then come out the back of it, dude.
Yeah, I've seen.
And then when it comes out the back, it breaks up into little pieces.
I'm sure I have not spent as much time as you looking at Soho imaging and the Soho feed, but I tell people, I say, if you ever want to see some crazy shit, just watch this for a while, because I don't know what any of that shit is flying around out there.
Let's step back. Let's step back and look at the universe we live in. We don't understand it all.
No, I don't think we understand. Yeah, I'm with you.
That shit could be fourth dimensional. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, Carl Sagan did a whole thing about flatlands, and he showed if we were in a two-dimensional world and a three-dimensional apple wanted to say hello, it wouldn't look like a three-dimensional apple in two-dimensional land. Just like we live in a three-dimensional world, shit that lives in the fourth dimension isn't going to look right. And we may not ever realize we're seeing it because we don't have the I believe there's something we're missing. It's like, and I have, these impulses, intuitive impulses, that as humanity, what's holding us back is like a Rosetta Stone, a translator. We're missing the translator to interact with these different aspects of this universe. Now, I believe maybe the powers that be have it already because I've done that research, but we, as the public, don't have it. But we may have access to things like these satellite images that are showing us stuff we cannot comprehend because we don't have the translator to take our knowledge to the second level. Or
maybe the translator is being kept from us.
Right. So I see lots of strange shit out there, but I still have to realize that I live in this world, that I'm given an opportunity in a telescope to see objects in space. There's enough of us looking out close in what I call the inner solar system that I know there's nothing big, there's nothing that's out there that we don't know that's out there. You know what I mean? There's nothing in the inner solar system that's hidden from us right now because there's enough independent people looking that we would know. What we do have are the comets and the asteroids. The comets and the asteroids are here because the inner solar system is getting more densely populated with these near-Earth objects.
And why is that occurring now?
There's two things going on. One of the things is technology. You must give some percentage of the reason why it's getting so crowded to the fact that we have more people and more resources to put names on things. That you have to give it some of that. The next part is the clouds, the asteroid belt and the Oort cloud. They've been out there churning for a very long time. When they first were produced, their objects were a lot bigger. The longer we go, the objects get a lot smaller, and then I've seen the simulation. It is a soup bowl. We are physically getting filled up. The inner solar system is getting more and more smaller objects. They're not the big, gigantic ones. They're still out there, but the reason why we're getting more is because there's more interaction of the objects in the belts. They're breaking down, and they're more easily thrown off course. Now you add that, plus the advent of new technology, new ways to track, mark, and name these things, because now you've got people who are just you have more people who give it their whole life's endeavor to find new objects using the new technology.
So you believe that that's why we've seen an increase in things falling to the Earth, or I mean, we've seen a lot of meteors over the past year coming in. Actually, I think last night in New Mexico there was a sighting of what people are saying might be a meteor or a comet or something.
Yeah, they're asking if it's the satellite. They're asking all sorts of questions, and until somebody says differently, anybody who views something that they don't understand, the best thing to do is to keep it simple and put your first impression on it and leave it there until somebody tells you differently with some proof, okay? So one guy can see it as a spaceship. Fine. Stick with it. If that's what you want to be, stick with the spaceship. One person is going to see it as a comet. Fine. Stick with it. That was your first interpretation. The problem being with these things is you get, I don't know what it was. It could have been a spaceship. It could have been a comet. It could have been a satellite. It could have been that. And what you have is you have all these issues debated by all these people, and you never get a straight answer because everyone's trying to be right.
Right. I'm not trying to be right because I'm not going to try to figure out what it is because I'll never be able to, in all honesty.
Hey.
What?
I'm not talking to you.
I know. I mean, but what I'm saying is, do you agree that there's been a lot more of this type of thing happening? Not
falling to Earth. No, honestly, when you said falling to Earth, I say no.
Okay, well then maybe I should send you some things that I've seen that have supposedly occurred. We had two fireballs. This is how it was described. 2 fireballs streaked down the East Coast. Was it early spring this year? One was even seen by a friend of mine from like Vermont to Virginia. We had an event where there was a fireball seen out in the Dakotas, supposedly landed somewhere. 2 weeks ago down in South America, news station ran footage of some flaming object coming down out of the heavens, started a forest fire down there.
I have a question.
Yep.
I bet you could continue that all the way back for 100 years.
All right. Well, I'm just saying.
Can I say that, though, as an opinion?
Yeah.
As an opinion, we could go back 100 years, probably longer, and there's always been reports of stuff fallen, right?
Well, not that I've noticed. And I'm not saying I'm the guy that has to notice. All I'm saying is I've been looking for a while, and I haven't seen these things or heard this in this amount. What seems like in my entire life. So.
Okay,
I'm not trying to say anything or prove anything. I'm just saying seems to be my observation. That's all.
I'm not trying to run you ragged. Sometimes I come off, high strung, pumped up. Listen, it's not between me and you. We're just having open discussions. So
right.
Don't worry about what I say. It's not intended for you. It's not even really intended for the audience. It's just intended for the audience and you to listen to me think, and then that's where the stuff comes out. But, my feeling on it is, now you have a different feeling, because I could pick up the sense that you've been researching it now, and you feel that there is an increase in it, and
it seems that way, but I'm not running with it. Trust me,
okay.
Francis, I would much rather have things like Planet X not be true.
Right.
I don't want that to happen. So
right. I was just going to go there.
Yeah.
I was like, I think what scares most people is the ELE. Okay. The ELE. The
sure.
ELE.
Well, you think back to Deep Impact. It's whatever the whole similarities between Deep Impact, what it was called LE. This whole thing discovered by a kid named Leo, and then we have Leonid Elenin discover Elenin. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's crazy, man. And here I am. I'm talking to the guy on Facebook. So and I'm just going with it. So a lot of my research, it's blind research. You make the connections, you make the interpretation, you try to do the science. Of course, I'm starting on the ground, and I'm having to reach out to some of the theories. What I wanted to say is, like, with the increase of things coming in, I believe that there is an increase of things coming in. Sure, I can say that. Do I think that they're extremely dangerous to us? Because, see, I really came in on the discussion to denounce the ELE event, or to say that I don't believe there's an ELE event occurring, because that's what was really riling people up and getting people to move to the Ozark Caverns and this kind of stuff.
That place is getting crowded. But you're talking ELE event in relation to Elenin?
No, just an extinction level
just an event. Okay.
So if you're saying there's more objects falling into Earth, are there going to be ones big enough that slip by us to, I want to get right to the meat of it, because can we live with meteors falling through the sky? I think we can. What's your chance of getting hit by one? I don't know. But how many are going to be falling? Is it going to be 100 in one day? Is it going to increase to the point to whatever?
Well, if you were referencing Book of Revelations, isn't that in the Book of Revelations?
Oh, I only know one thing about the Book of Revelations right now.
Well, I don't know a ton about it, but if any of you listeners out there in chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's fire falling from the sky, or some type of interpretation.
70-pound meteorites, or parsecs or something.
Okay.
Yeah, right. There's something in there where it's supposed to come. And that's why, is Comet Elenin breaking up? Is it a bunch of 70-pound rocks now? Important to know. I do not know. They say it's broken up. They haven't told us how much it's broken up. Their pictures just show it disappearing. What does it mean when it just disappears? So these are topics that are important. Now, tomorrow night, and I'm going to bring up the show that I'm going to do tomorrow night.
Yeah, plug it, man.
freedomslips.com. It's another independent revolution-style radio station. freedomslips.com/revolution radio. I do a weekly astronomy update. This Friday, it's our first Friday night show after doing 8 shows, 8 weeks on Wednesday night. We broke a lot of records for listeners. This Friday is our first Friday night show, and it's not just going to be me. It's going to be me, Richard Hoagland, who thinks Comet Elenin's a spaceship.
Yep.
Terrell 03, who thinks Comet Elenin's a brown dwarf star. Ian Musgrave, one of the other astronomers, who thinks Comet Elenin's broken up. And a couple of secret panelists who have good questions for all of us.
All right. Well, do me a favor. When you get that link, maybe hook me up on Facebook. I'll throw it up on the my Facebook page and put it on my website too, so maybe we can get some of my people to come over there and check it out.
I would definitely do that. I will do that later this evening, and then I'll start doing the promos. There'll be a promo video tomorrow. But for anyone who really likes this topic, tomorrow you won't just hear from me. You'll get to hear all the some of the other things that are going on, which adds to the depth and the value and the ability for people to make up their own mind. But everyone else on my show, they're all bullshitters, so don't listen to them.
Okay. All right. Hey, let me ask you about this. Now, I've heard reports that we are going to be moving through some type of photon belt.
You want to know what it is?
Yeah, I have no idea what it is.
Okay, the Mayans were great astronomers. They had calendars and time and their calendar. The end of their calendar, now whether it can, because I'm not a Mayan historic, libertarian, whatever. This is what I know. There is an alignment of the galactic center. Our solar system has a plane and an alignment. When the planets are all lined up in one way with the sun, that's called an alignment. Now, the galaxy we live in, the Milky Way galaxy, it has a galactic center and a galactic plane. The galactic center, they say, is owned by a black hole. Okay. If you looked at the Milky Way on edge, so all you would see right over the edge of the Milky Way is toward the center would be a very bright light spot, a bulb, a circular area, and then the arms, and it would look flat. It would look like a top. It would look like Saturn. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then when you look at the Milky Way from up top, it looks like a spiral. Now, our solar system lives in one of the outside arms of the Milky Way. And we move up and down in that arm as our solar system moves around Sirius. The star Sirius, there's a system out there that interacts with our solar system. And it actually moves our position up and down on the ecliptic plane. Okay? So, the galaxy, the end of the Mayan calendar, made note of the galactic alignment, and it's called the Southern Cross. Our solar system is going to line up perfectly with the center of the galaxy. And what that means is the center of the galaxy pulses waves of energy out on the plane. The most energy comes out the top and the bottom, like a pulsar star. You know, it has jets out the top and the bottom.
Right.
Well, some of the energy radiates out on the equator, and it comes in waves, just like an ocean. Some of it a big wave, and some of it a little wave, some of it a big wave, and it depends. And we're coming into this alignment, and the photon belt, what they're talking about, a photon belt, is basically the energy wave that we're going to go into when we are in full alignment. Now, the galactic plane is not a flat two-dimensional object. It's three-dimensional in the set that it's flat, but it also has depth. So we've been in the galactic plane for a little while now, probably for the last couple of years. But we're going to really get into the meat of it when the Southern Cross alignment happens, because you're going to have an alignment of our solar system that's going to match up to the alignment of the center of the galaxy, and that occurs every 26,000 years.
Okay.
Okay, so that energy could be the reason for everything.
Okay, so this alignment, this movement, this Southern Cross that we're going to be a part of, this could be something that might be, let's say, cool or uncool.
Okay. I'm going to say uncool.
In layman's terms.
I'm going to go and say uncool, because I'm not a very good surfer, and I really can't handle big waves.
I got what you're saying. Okay.
And if I get there and there's big waves on that ocean, that could just wipe me out.
All right, but that's not an ELE event.
Maybe.
Aha. Okay. All right.
That's debatable. This is stuff we don't know about.
Okay, so in reference to ELE events, and people out there, I am not fishing for an ELE event. Trust me. I need to ask while I have Francis here with me. So when you're talking about different celestial objects flying around out there, you're not considering any of them to be a threat as far as an ELE event. Now, that being said, if we were in a debris field, then we had things crashing to Earth. Depending where those things hit, it may not be an extinction level event, but it sure as hell could be the end of things as we know it, meaning breaking down, commerce, government structure, societal structure, things like that. Those are all still possibilities as we enter into this area of stuff.
And we have the reports of the ISS being abandoned. I still don't know if that's going to be true, if there's a date for that, if that's positive.
Yeah, what's your take on that? Because we just had our last secret payload up there, supposedly. Right.
Yeah, and they got a power supply and a year worth of food.
And now suddenly it's about to fall out of the sky, supposedly.
This is my quick theory.
Yeah.
My quick theory is NASA is at least a month ahead of me on their forecast and observations and tools. if they believe Comet Elenin was breaking up, and if they thought there was a threat of it turning into a cloud, do they need to worry about a cloud field, interacting with the ISS? Maybe not getting to Earth, bouncing off the atmosphere, but do they got to worry about ISS? Next object, are they worried about YU-55? I don't really know the orbit of where ISS is going to be when YU-55 flies around. Right. So they can blame it on a rocket, a Russian rocket, but maybe the spacemen don't want to be up there when this shit starts flying around.
Right. Yeah.
So now listen, the energy from the galactic center.
Yes.
The New Age people are waiting for an instant evolving. Okay.
An ascension, yes.
An ascension.
Yep.
They don't. They feel that that's what they're talking about. Because the energy that comes from the center has the potential to be both a benefit and a positive, and a bad thing and a good thing, depending on how good of surfers we are and how big the wave is. Okay. I mean, because the energy that comes from there, whatever energy makes it through our atmosphere, it will change our DNA. It's the type of energy that will, and it's not X-ray. It's not X-ray energy. It's not gamma energy. It's something else. It's like core. It's like if you wanted to try to evolve yourself and you were a mad scientist, you would want to bottle this stuff and try it out.
Okay.
And then you just have to worry about how much you gave yourself.
Okay.
Because you might turn into a beast, or you might turn into the prophet.
Yeah, I have an addictive personality, so I probably shouldn't get a hold of any of that stuff. I'd probably abuse it.
This is what I'm doing. This is how I look at it, my friend. I work my brain. I take moments to meditate. I take times to try to remote view, remote viewing,
sure.
and the pineal gland.
Yep.
And it may be calcified, but that doesn't stop me from trying. And I'm ascending myself. I don't need nobody to tell me what to do, how to do it, or give me some energy to do it. I'm going to make it happen anyways. Because you know why? If there's anything that all this bull junk Pucky is telling me is that I need to shape up, or I'm going to have to ship out.
Right.
Right. I'm losing weight. I'm digging holes. We're building an observatory.
Wait, man! You're digging holes? Are we digging shelters?
No, we're building a brand new observatory down here in Texas.
Because we know that nations are building shelters. We know that Sweden's building shelters. We know that Russians. Right. Sure.
Well, we know that, and there's always, and this is the good thing, the people who are most crazy with their theories are making me do the most work. So when people said, well, how come you don't really just tear Terrell a new butthole? And I've gotten 4 and 5 months into it, and I've now come to the conclusion that without those crazy theories, I wouldn't have the knowledge that I have. Okay? If they just all crumbled every time I looked at a theory, I wouldn't have gone out there and done as much research as I did and be as well informed and have as much conviction about it. Now, this is how I feel. I am this way so that I am prepared for anything to happen. I am not going to be one of the guys, one of the neighbors, when something terrible happens, who's going to walk out into the middle of the street and go crazy.
Right.
I've done this to secure my own sanity and not to be fooled by foolsters.
Right. And a big part of that is mental preparation, like you mentioned.
Mental preparation. And you know what? Champions win by visualizing before they actually play the game. They visualize winning. They visualize crossing the plate first. I am a big proponent for that. You don't even know how to win until you can see it in your head. And then you can understand it, and then it helps you organize your thoughts and be, this stuff with just saying stuff to sell a book and just this stuff to scare people. And then, I know that there's covert operations happening on YouTube trying to get people all worked up, trying to get people say that they're going to build a bomb shelter, they're going to go get guns, they're going to go buy weapons. People just aren't aware to this stuff. I've got nothing to do with it. I don't need a weapon. I need my brain. My brain is my weapon, and that's all I need.
Well, I mean, you're referring to preparations for, whatever could happen. I mean, it's not just things that can come from outer space. It's socioeconomic collapse. And if anybody doesn't think that might be on the near horizon, then you obviously haven't been paying attention. You know,
I got 90 days of rations in this house at all times. 55-gallon water drum.
Yeah, I look at it like this: you pay for your homeowner's insurance every month, your car insurance every month, because in case something happens. To not have a food supply in case something happens is, in my opinion, looking at the weather. It's ignorant. I mean, you know where I am. I'm from your hometown area. Okay, I'm right from the Palmer area. We had the F3 tornadoes come through here.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
but you know what? I'm not going to light my house on fire because you do.
No. But I'm just saying, you know, if you look back on it, let's say, you know, people look back and let's say we have a big quake in the United States, you know, Japan level, bigger. Who knows? If you look at the earthquake activity, like I said, over the past 48 hours, it's been pretty much off the hook. I don't think I've seen this many quakes of this magnitude in such a short time in the 2 to 3 years that I've been looking at these things. Now it's only 2 to 3 years. But I think if you don't do some type of preparation, you're going to look back and go, you know, when was a big enough sign for me? You know.
Well, I just think the problem is we have to knock off some of these knockoff reasons. You know, is it?
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to spread.
Is it the black hole? Is it the black hole trying to tell us something, and nobody's telling us it's the black hole?
Hey, look, man, we could be completely misled on everything. So, like I said, I don't claim to know a damn thing about any of it. I just know that what I'm told by supposed official stories never seems to be the truth. So really all I'm left with is theory, conjecture, hunches, you know, and talking to people like you, because the reason I wanted you on the show is because you have no agenda. You know, what would your agenda be? You know, I don't know if you have a book or not, but you know.
No, I mean the agenda. I'll tell you what the agenda was: to get my wife off the toilet if something was going to happen.
Right.
That's it. I mean, plain and simple. I'd already told her, you know, it was months. I was in the Nibiru and the Sumerians, and I said, honey, what would happen if I told you we had to go do something? She said, I wouldn't believe you.
So let me ask you about that. Now, when you mentioned Nibiru, and you've looked into it, and now you've pretty much come to your conclusion saying that, well, you don't think it's in anywhere near us at this point. But looking back on NASA's on the stories that NASA put out in the 80s, 83 and 84, about the discovery of a large celestial object on the outskirts. Now we have, was it Tiki or Teach or however you're supposed to say it, that supposed discovery. So have you pretty much dismissed that whole theory, or you just don't think it's here yet if it does exist?
I don't think it's here yet. I think, you know, the reason why the scientists kept finding new planets is because there was something perturbing the planets.
Right.
They noticed in the orbits of Saturn something was perturbing it. They went out and they found Neptune, and they went out and they found Uranus, and they went out and they didn't find the big object that they were looking for. Is their report today, this binary star, is it going to, you know, we might be talking about they were looking for an exoplanet, when in actuality, if you start throwing in these binary systems a little bit too close to us, now they won't interact with our sun, and they're not in orbit with our sun, but I mean, I think Tai Chi, I think the exoplanet is not the way to go.
Yeah, again, I would never say, "Yup, that's what it's going to be." I would just look at information and say, "Well, it's something. It could be something. What it is, I don't know. A massive mothership. I mean, I think it's
personally too early for us to know. I mean, because
Sure.
Mother Nature is going to reveal what she's going to reveal when the time is right. Some people will know sooner, but that was just Mother Nature saying you get to know sooner because you were doing your homework. I don't discount it. I believe it's out there. I mean, I've seen the cylinder seals that the Sumerians made. But listen, I also think about this. How do we get from Sumerian cylinder seals when they all knew that the planet was round, and where do we get to the point where we can't float our ships to the edge of the ocean? I mean, how do we get from smart to stupid? I think there's lots of lies going on, and
I agree.
If I believe there's lies, what is the lie? Sumeria could be the lie. You know, stuff like that. They could be setting us up. Now look at Göbekli Tepe. Let's go back there. I mean, Sumeria is almost a blip in the road when you look at Göbekli Tepe, when that's 20,000 years back. You know, somebody could have just made up the Sumerians. Not made it up, but
Sure.
made up some of the stuff.
Look, I'm with you on that. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I look at. I see, we could be being lied to constantly. In fact, I believe we are being lied to almost in every aspect of things that we've been told.
We're being led. Lied
to, whatever it is. But see, my question with that is, I don't try to figure out what we're being lied to about, who we're being lied to by, and try to figure out the lies. My question is, there has to be a huge reason why we are being lied to, or why we have been lied to, and why we are being led.
Well, I think that's called civilization. In order to form a better republic.
Well, we are definitely have not been on the track to do that in any way, shape, or form. In my opinion, society's been on a downhill for many, many generations. So I'm not buying the fact that they're trying to lead us anywhere for any good purpose.
This is a part of why we spend so much time talking about ELE. People know this to be true. People would rather throw themselves at an ELE event than know that eventually the government's going to strangle them.
Could be. But my line of thinking, I'll take my chances against those assholes than I will against Planet X any day.
Let's see. And that's the line between rational intelligence and irrational. Somebody save me.
Right. Thank you for saying that. I don't often have people tell me that I'm rational, so thank you.
Yeah. Okay, listen, what time is it? 6:23.
Yes. Yep.
We got a few more minutes. My wife has come home, so I know she's going to want to see my face and ask me what I've been doing. Is there something that I haven't spoken on that, somebody, that you want to know about me or anything?
Well, I've asked all my questions somewhere or another to you tonight that I had.
Okay, well, let me tell you this. Let me go ahead, and I'm not even going to make you think. For anyone who's listening or on the chat room, remember, tomorrow night on freedomslips.com, a very important super panel of guests who are all going to be talking about their theories of what's going on around us. You've just listened to an hour and a half of me telling you what I think. I'll be on the panel, yes, but you're going to hear more than me. And those other theories are, we're going to put those men in a position to stand by what they say so that when the stuff doesn't happen, we can ask them more about why they thought that. Now, the problem with most of these events is that we're waiting for stuff to happen. And that's gonna be true. We may not get a revelation until a very short time. But I don't think it's healthy to go out there and speculate the end of the world is coming because, every generation has had those end of the world sayers, and they just don't have the proof to prove it.
Right.
So I don't believe any of the bull. I don't believe the star, and not because I just don't believe it. It's because I spent a lot of time following their story around, and that's what it was designed to do: lead you around, fill your head with ideas, get you to come back, whether they want you as a friend, a congregation member, or as just a blind, warm body. Because if you're going to follow along and think that the world is going to end with the information we have, you've taken 3 steps forward without knowing you've taken 3 steps back.
Right. Well, hey, if the world's going to end, the world's going to end. There's nothing anybody's going to do about it. So to stress about it is really useless. But if the world's just going to change a lot, a little preparation might be in order. But let me ask you this. I did think of something real quick. I read a while ago that NASA says that Betelgeuse is going to go supernova, and we might be able to see what appears to be 2 suns in the sky. Is this bullshit, or what do you think about this?
No, it's not. But they don't know the time. There's no time. You could be gone.
Okay.
It could happen to, and this is something that's actually, if you want to look at Betelgeuse, you're talking about thousands of years also. It could have popped off 1,000 years ago. It could pop off tomorrow. And sure, it's true. It's a fact. But we're talking about universal timelines, and the universe doesn't. We're on a 90-year timeline. Each of our generations, and even if you take your generation and your parents' generation, your parents will tell you about some crazy dude who said the world was going to end and it didn't. And in our lifetime, it'll be the same thing. Let's just not get ahead of ourselves. And the way I look at it, right, if I can't stop something bad that's going to happen, I'm going to be okay with it because I'm prepared mentally and physically to survive something that's survivable. If it's unsurvivable, then everyone's going, and I go as a black sheep. And those other ones who didn't see it coming probably had a better end of times than I did, because I spent a lot of time worrying about the end of the world.
All right, quick question as we're winding down here, and then I'll let you go. Earth, extreme weather on this planet, the increase we've seen, caused by the sun or you and me exhaling?
Neither.
Okay.
Listen, it's not just us. Saturn had an enormous storm in the northern hemisphere just recently. Last year, Jupiter warmed up enough to turn some of its gases into a cloud and cover up one of its stripes. It's not just this month. It's not just this year. It's been happening for years. It's not just this planet. It's the whole solar system.
Okay. Caused by, in your opinion?
Caused by the center of the galaxy.
Okay. As we move into the Southern Cross.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I think there's a lot more going on that, I'm sure that the research is already out there, and we're just not pulling on the research papers and putting it in front of the listeners yet, because we're so wrapped up with this timeline that we're dealing with.
Okay. Yeah, you heard the British lady?
I say there's a potential for this. Yes, I feel there's a potential that the Southern Cross could be causing the warm-up in the solar system. It's not just Earth. It's not just Earth. Now, it's bad. It's not great, but it could be a natural event. As long as it doesn't wipe us out, it's just a little shake, rattle, and roll. And let me tell you, if I find out something that is imminent, and I've always said it from the beginning, I have 60 seconds to tell you that I will tell you what I find, if I find it, when I find it. I will not hold anything back, good or bad. I am not reporting on anything dangerous outside of the things flying around that we're looking at, because to me, that's all that's out there right now.
I trust your judgment, Francis. Hey, man, I just want to thank you for coming on the show. I think it was one of my, if not my best guest-oriented show that I've ever had. I had a great time, man, and I hope that you come back soon, or anytime you want to report something, or just call in, or just pop on, whatever you want to do.
I will do that. If you promise me to remember about tomorrow night, freedomslips.com/Revolution Radio starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. Do not miss it.
Yes, sure. I will post up the info, my friend.
And then I'll talk to you later, man.
All right. I appreciate it, Francis.
Bye.
Take it easy. All right, everybody. There he goes, Francis. I thought it was great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry. That's it. Show's over.